so much for the patience, and welcome to our latest episode of the Titan Speaker Series. I'm quite honored and always privileged to introduce Jessie Niles, who you've all had the chance to observe waiting patiently for me on video for the last couple minutes. So just a couple brief things about Jessie. So former standout at the University of Alberta, where she was our starting libero for, you know what, I'm not going to misquote how many years you were their starting libero, but you were a standout libero for the University of Alberta for several years. She was, up until just this past year, our women's national team starting libero before she chose to retire. Has played professionally in Austria and France, and since her retirement has developed a few new ways to positively impact the sport in our country, which we're going to get to in a little bit. So Jessie, thank you so much for being on the call. Really, really great to have you.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, and for everyone for joining us here on your Sunday afternoon.
Awesome. So we're gonna jump right in. So I've given everybody a little bit of background as to what your bio looked like, and as to where your more recent accolades have been. But if we were to go all the way back to the beginning, let's just start with, where are you from? Where did you grow up, and what did your starting of club volleyball look like?
Yeah, so I was born actually in a small rural community in Ontario, actually, Smith Falls, if anybody has heard of it. But when I was pretty young, my family, we moved to southern Alberta, and that's where I grew up for most of my childhood and early adulthood, was in Turner Valley, Alberta. So that's about an hour south of Calgary. And started to play volleyball when I was 13. All my friends were playing, and I thought, hey, I'll give it a try as well. And and the rest is kind of history. But I played for the Okotoks Volleyball Club starting off, and then late in my club career, I played for the Dinos Volleyball Club in Calgary.
Awesome. Yeah, I hadn't heard of. Sorry, well, that was Okotoks. That was
Okotoks, yeah, yeah, another
Okotoks.
small town.
Is there a mascot for the Okotoks, or is Okotoks a mascot itself, or was it like the Okotoks something?
You know what? I can't even remember. I can't remember any mascots, to be honest.
So when through those years, all your friends are playing club volleyball, you say, sure, I'll give it a shot, jump in, try as well. Now, at that point, was that the only sport you were playing, or was there anything else that you had your hands into?
You know, my family, we were a super sporty, outdoorsy family, but neither of my parents played volleyball. So early on as a kid, I loved doing a bunch of hiking and canoeing. We used to go on a lot of outdoor canoe trips, and I loved doing track and field and badminton. But kind of, 13, 14, I really started to specialize in volleyball, partly because I lived so far outside of the city. So any kind of extracurricular activities, it took a solid hour drive there, hour drive back. So I early on had to kind of make my decision as to what I wanted to spend my time doing. So it was around 14, I would say, I started to focus more on volleyball.
Okay. And so around 14, you say, you know what, volleyball is my sport. I've been doing a lot of different activities. At that point, was it the sport you were best at as well? Like, were you already shining through as a player, or was it just, this is what I'm having the most fun with doing?
I definitely, I was a good distance runner, and I was good at track. So I wouldn't say I was necessarily much better at volleyball, but the thing that pulled me in early on and has kept me playing for a long time is really I love being on a team. Volleyball, there's such a great combination of physicality, but then also, game planning and that really cerebral part of the game that I really loved. So, yeah, the social aspect has been amazing. I've had such a privilege to be on some incredible teams, surrounded and supported by some fantastic people. So the people is what got me in and is what kept me in the game, for sure.
You know what, when I look at all the different aspects of the game that you can participate in, whether it's whether it's during your youth playing years where everybody is there to set up for you to play, or the later years, whether you're playing competitively or recreationally as an adult, where it's really more driven by you. And then the other side of the game, which I think both of us are starting to experience now, which is the giving back portion, where now you're attending volleyball, but you're not the show. It's about helping them be the show. And in every one of those lanes, that social aspect and that feeling of community and being part of something is so powerful, and it can really keep us motivated to do so much in the sport. So that's always nice to hear you talk about. One thing I want to come back to during those club years. What were there points earlier on in your club years, or was there a point throughout those youth volleyball years where maybe you weren't the strongest player on the team, or you were kind of working your way into the sport, and other players were maybe shining a bit brighter than you? Was there a period for that, or from 13 right away on were you kind of the star of the show a little bit?
Yeah, I never would place myself in the bucket of star of the show necessarily. I mean, I did have, being from a small town and having there, not many players, I did have lots of opportunities early on to play a lot, which I think really helped in my development. But that being said, I was a jack of all trades growing up. I played middle to start my career because I was pretty tall for my age. And then I remember there was one season we played a 6-2, except both of us were setting when we were in the back row and playing middle when we were in the front row, but also passing. So small town, we just made it work. And so I've played middle, I've been a setter, I have been a left side, right side. So, and then finally ended my career as a libero. So by no means have I been a star in any of those positions, but it gave me a really broad exposure to, a variety of skills, which have really benefited me at the international level where I finished my career.
That's awesome. I would argue with you when you say you weren't necessarily the star of the show at any of those. I'd like to think at a certain point you became pretty darn good, but I'm sure that also gave you a really great perspective of what the different roles are in the different positions too, what different players do.
Absolutely. And just to add on to that, is as a libero, where I ended my career, I felt like I was a bit of the quarterback of the back row. So really understanding how everybody's roles fit together and kind of the team as a whole really helped me in that leadership role. So kind of aside from my technical skills, the opportunity to play a variety of positions helped with that leadership as well.
Mm-hmm. Just one. I'm going to come back to one point just for those that are on the call. Jessie referenced a 6-2, and I'm not sure how commonly this term's used in different gyms and different spaces. So a 6-2 refers to 6 players who are on the court who all take the opportunity to swing and attack, while 2 of those players also have the responsibility as primary setters. So in a lot of cases, the back row player who defends in zone 1 is the team setter, and the 3 players in the front row are swinging. When the team rotates around and that player who was setting out of position 1 gets to the front row, they begin to swing, and the player who comes back around to the back row now becomes primary setter. University of Alberta, actually, I've seen that system used quite effectively with University of Alberta as well. And just comparatively, if you hear the term 5-1, that refers to 5 players who are primarily having attacking positions whose main job is to attack, and then 1 player whose main job is to set. And that would be more commonly what we would see when we're seeing our teams or other teams play club volleyball. You have a setter, and that person sets, and everybody else is a primary attacker. So I just want to touch on that one piece, since you did mention the 6-2. But let's as we kind of move through your club years and get into the university, kind of leading into national team and professional team years, what stands out to you from your transition going from club volleyball to playing at the University of Alberta? What stands out about that transition? What do you remember?
Yeah, well, something that comes to mind first is that you go from in club a group of your peers who have all more or less been playing for the same amount of time. Everybody's more or less at the same level, and then you arrive at university and you have players who've been playing 4, maybe 5, 6 years more than you. So there can be a big gap in experience and skill level. So I remember arriving in the gym feeling like, whoa, we've got some crazy good players in this gym, and feeling a bit intimidated. But on the flip side, I felt like I improved so much in that first year, just with the opportunity to be constantly pushed every single day by, the coaches and my teammates. So definitely big learning curve and technically especially. And then the second piece that I noticed as well is the volume of games played at university was less than in club. And so I noticed there was a lot more preparation for those matches in the university season. So we probably on average spend a week preparing for an opponent. So I was really physically prepared. Like I came in really strong that way, but I also experienced a lot of learning in terms of game preparation and more of the volleyball IQ side of the game.
One of the one of the aspects that Canada West volleyball has in terms of competition that I've always found really interesting, and Jessie, maybe if you have a quick second to speak to this, in Ontario, when college or university teams are competing over a weekend, they'll play one team on the Friday night, then they'll play another team on the Saturday night, and then later on in the season, they'll play those teams, and usually they'll play those teams again, but at the other school's gym. So you'll have a home match and away match. Whereas in the Canada West region of the country, because there are flights involved, you play the same team 2 nights in a row, which is a phenomenally interesting competitive environment that you create for night 2, because everybody's prepared for the week for that first match, and then everything, or at least some things, change going into the next match. I always find the second matches of those really, really, really competitive. What was that experience like when you first kind of got to see what it was like to play that second night of the weekend?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like a bit of a chess match. You're trying to predict what the other team is going to adjust and change, and how you might respond to that. And so I remember if we had maybe lost the match on night 1, feeling extra motivated and extra hungry to win that match, kind of that underdog feeling. And then winning the night before, coming back day 2, it's kind of like, oh, I gotta guard our territory. We gotta win again, and so maybe feeling a bit of pressure as well. So, but what has been cool and those experiences is that really helped me succeed on the national team and professional level is adjusting on the fly and be able to personally adjust, the team adjusting tactics and strategies, and so that was a fun part of Canada West for sure. That lent well to my entire career.
Awesome. Yeah, I've always found that phenomenally interesting. And in the club tournament world, you'll get that experience every now and then on the multi-day tournaments. Maybe your last match or the second day of like a power pool is competing against a team, and then you might see them again in the playoffs. And those second matches are always kind of end up feeling like rubber matches. It's always been phenomenal to see that at the post-secondary level. But during those years at University of Alberta, so you get in, you're experiencing the academic transition, the athletic transition, playing with players that are at totally different places in your life, in their lives. At what point did you start to see a path, or was it even before University of Alberta where you started to see a path to say, I think I know how I can get to be the best libero in the country? When did you start to see that?
Yeah, I mentioned before, I didn't come from a volleyball family, so I was really lucky to have some great role models and coaches and athletes that I played with. And I can't say I early on had a goal or a dream to play on the national team. It just hadn't really hit my radar yet. But one thing that I have a very competitive spirit and, really hardworking attitude. And I think that really helped me get to where I was, at the University of Alberta. But once my coach, Lori Eisler, I started working with her, and she early on planted the seeds like, hey, you should go try out for the junior national team. And it was something like, oh, like, wow, that you think I can make it onto that squad. So she really inspired me early on to kind of chase that dream of the national team. And so it was really, I think it's a good lesson now looking back on my career to plant those seeds in young athletes, and because it just might not be something that maybe you think you can do, but hey, you never know. So I really appreciated that opportunity and that encouragement from her. And once I made it onto the junior team, I mean, I had the opportunity to be training in and around the senior team. So I had that visual right in the gym, like, oh, wow, like this could be me in 6 years. So once I had that kind of at my fingertips, it's the path to that became a lot clearer. So, and the great thing is that it was fun the whole time, like stepping out and representing your country. I can't describe anything more fun than that. So that's what really kept me going. And I got the taste of it early on and stuck with it. So, yeah.
It's an absolutely incredible honor. It's an incredible honor. I had a much more brief stint with national teams than you did, but even now when the national anthem comes on, I stand up a little bit more straight and sing along, and it's the opportunity to represent our country on an international stage in any type of competition it's a feeling of pride for all that is Canada that it's really hard to compare to many other things. So it's cool to hear that through that introduction you started to see this path of like, well, I'm here and now they're right next door, and they're senior and they're training, and I'm junior and I'm training, and we're all training in the same space. Like I could get there. I could really get there. That's really, really key. There was one question that popped up in the chat, and I think it's a quick one, so we can dial back to when you pivoted from playing multiple positions to just playing libero. Was that your idea? Was that a coach's idea? Was it kind of mutual, where everybody kind of saw this is probably where you would best thrive? How did that happen?
It was, the situation was, I was in my first year, I came to university as a left side, a bit of an undersized left side. So I'm just under 5'10", so tall in, I guess, the normal world, but short for international volleyball. But I came in fully expecting to play left side, and halfway through the season, we only had one libero on the team, and she unfortunately got injured. And coach asked me to step up to the plate. So that was really, it was a mutual decision. I certainly wasn't forced to, but really jumped on the opportunity to help the team out, really. Like it was, that's one thing that I always, for me, the team always comes first. And so if this is the role that the team needs me to play, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, even if it might feel a little bit uncomfortable at first. And there's a lot of lessons to learn. So, and it was a good move, thinking back, because it really prepared me well to perform at the professional level. And typically, the taller you are, the harder you can hit, the better you do. So it really helps me to focus on, the defensive side of my game and help my team ultimately as well. So
yeah, you did pretty darn well at it too. I love to hear these pathways into specifically the libero position. I find that in a lot of instances, athletes feel like they find their way into that role because it's almost as if you're doing this because you can't do that, as opposed to you're doing this because you're really, really good at this, and there's a real opportunity to have growth there. And even when I look over at kind of your parallel position on the men's national team for the last handful of years, Blair was a setter through club volleyball as well. Like and when you look on an international scale or across post-secondary levels, a lot of the liberos that are having success are players that they're so good at their position because they've played the other positions too, not because they've stayed within this narrow lane of this is what I know how to do, this is all I know how to do, and everything else isn't what I do. It's kind of, well, I can do everything, I just happen to be really good at this. So I always love to see that. But so you tried out for the junior national team and have success there, and you're on that path towards being kind of the girl for your position. Were there any barriers that you saw, or were there any roadblocks that were in the way of that? Whether it was another player that had been in that role for a long time, like was there anything you had to overcome to get there?
Yeah, I can think maybe of a couple roadblocks that I had to overcome. So in my fourth year of university, so I had just made it on to the B squad at that point, and I actually injured my knee. So I had a torn meniscus, and I had to get surgery on my knee. So it's an injury is kind of a common thing that many athletes go through. But I just remember it was a tough thing to navigate because I had to decide when to get surgery. I could kind of keep it together, but I needed to have surgery at some point. So I either needed to take time out of my university season or out of the national team season. And so this is probably not a recommended path, but I ended up finishing my university season, getting surgery, and then working like a maniac to kind of rehab it. And I was back playing in a game 3 weeks later and showed up at national team tryouts ready to go. And made the team again. But I just remember looking back, like it was a tough time to navigate just making those decisions, but luckily it turned out well. And my knee's healthy now, but it was one thing to overcome. And then I used to think, looking back at each kind of step in my career, that, okay, once I make this level, I've made it, it's all going to be good, I'll have figured everything out by then. But with each new level you reach comes new challenges. And so just when you think you have everything figured out, it's there's new challenges that are uncovered. So, playing at the national level, even more pressure, even more people watching. So with each jump, it's been a lot of fun, but have had to kind of meet the increasing demands at each stage of my career.
Mm-hmm. Certainly increasing demands at all levels. I'll reiterate, athletes, if in terms of experiencing injuries and those tricky decisions of play through it versus get it addressed, I strongly encourage across the board, get a second, get a third opinion, get multiple opinions from medical and physical professionals that can give you all the right information so that you can make that type of decision for yourself. I think in a lot of cases, we as athletes, we have this concern over, well, if I go see somebody about this that's hurting, whether it's however many thousands of athletes over the years have played through injuries, especially in volleyball, shoulders, back, ankle, knees, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, across the board. There's this feeling of, well, if I bring this up, that it's hurting or bothering me, does that mean they're going to take the sport away from me? Are they going to say, well, I shouldn't play, or I should rest, or I should rehab, or I should heal? But I don't want to do that. I want to play. And those decisions are yours to make, but you should really make them having already seen somebody who's a professional in this area and kind of knows exactly what's happening and can talk you through it. So Jessie, I'm sure in your case, when you 3 weeks to come back from a meniscus injury is quick. However, great athletes that work hard can do it. And that's actually that's actually a recommended timeline. A lot of surgeons will tell somebody after a meniscal repair of any type. It's not just, well, if I don't play, then I'm going to lose out on opportunities, and you could do damage further down the road. So I don't want to go too far into that path. That's probably a different chat. But athletes, if something hurts or something doesn't feel good, bring it up to your coach, but also see if you can get another opinion. It's really important to take care of your health. It matters when you get to your later years as well. You can do all the things. But Jessie, coming back to your kind of when volleyball became the most important thing in your life. So you played for the Okotoks, your youth club. You played for one of the best university teams in the country. Played for our senior women's national team. You played professionally. When you look back at these experiences, do any one of them stand out as meaning more to you, or feeling kind of closer to your heart, or do you have, I guess, any one of those that you have kind of really fond memories of, and why?
Yeah, that's a good question, because they all have been really special in kind of their own ways as well. I mean, I guess working backwards, being part of the national team is incredibly special, and the bond that you create with your teammates is like none other. I mean, we've had the incredible opportunity to travel the world, playing in Japan, in Russia, in Korea, Peru, Dominican Republic, like just all around the world. And so it's not necessarily the results that I'll remember, but it's just the grind of day in, day out practice, showing up to the gym, 6 a.m., being there till 10 at night. It was an incredible journey. So for the national team, it's just the bond created over working so hard towards a common goal. And then my time at the University of Alberta was also incredibly special. It's a university, volleyball is very important, but it's also you're a student athlete, so you're working hard on your academics. And I've met some incredible lifelong friends. I met my fiance at university, and so it was that university experience was just so much fun as well, and set me up well for varsity. And but I think what unifies both experiences, and I mentioned it before, but it was just the community and just that team supporting you and supporting each other. And so that's been a really important lesson now that I've retired. It's like you really notice when you don't have that team around you. So it's making the effort to create that community in other places and still bring that environment. So that was kind of a non-answer, but a summary of why both of them were really special.
Awesome. Yeah, well, hey, I mean, that's one of the beauties of volleyball as a team sport, is that you're not doing it alone. And not only you're not doing it alone, but you can't do it alone. So the successes, the failures, the roadblocks, the hurdles, all of those experiences, in terms of team performance, you ride together, right? That's your crew, that's your squad. But I want to come back to some of the lows that we experience in volleyball, because it's when you're out of your playing years, you're out of your playing career, or even when you look back, it's really easy to associate successes, accolades, and the positive attributes with what you took from the experience. And yet the lows often teach us so much more, because we have to stop and reflect. So when you look back at your playing year, was there a point before your retirement where you felt like, this was the goal I had to make it to, and I don't think I'm going to make it? Like, was there a period of doubt that kicked in at any point throughout, from club the whole way up to, I guess we can call it, making it?
Yeah. Well, definitely a huge challenge more recently in my career was a combination of both injury and burnout. So I was playing professionally in the south of France. I cannot tell you how excited I was heading into that season. For those of you who maybe have been lucky to go to France, in the south of France, you know, it's beautiful beaches, palm trees, like it's the most ideal place you could be playing professionally. And unfortunately, in October of that professional season, I herniated a disc in my back. So I was in a lot of pain and not performing to the level that I really wanted to. And kind of added on to that, I was the only libero on the team, so a lot of pressure to push through. And then I had been just a little bit of background on how the national team season fits in with professional. You play national team usually from around May to August every year, and then immediately after go into the professional season, playing from September till April, Mayish. So it's kind of month in, month out with not an official off season necessarily, especially for your national team players. So I had been playing year after year without much of a break, and so I was tired, and then my body kind of gave out on me there. So it was really tough. Tough, and I would say a big low point, because I was just battling, trying to push through this. And during that time as well, so this was, I guess, just over a year ago, the national team, we had our last chance Olympic qualifier in January of, I guess, 2020. So I flew from the south of France, kind of being held together by Band-Aids, flew 36 hours, jumped on court for our training camp. And within 5 minutes of being on the court, my back just seized up and told me, no, this is not happening. And so I spent 2 weeks of training camp doing physio from dawn till dusk, just like trying to get through it so I could help the team out in that qualifier. And the craziest thing happened to me. I could have easily kind of written myself off and said, okay, everybody send me home. This is it for me. And I'd be lying if there wasn't times where that crossed my mind. But what I ended up doing while I was doing physio at the back of the court, I would be watching every minute of practice and visualizing the serves that were being served and the hits coming at me. And so I was staying with it 100%, and arguably even more than I had been previously. So I was there in practice, I was watching, I was observing, and I was just waiting for my body to catch up. And 2 days before we left to go down to the tournament, I jumped into practice just to it's kind of the make it or break it moment. Are you going to be able to go down and play? And the craziest thing happened. I had my best passing stats, I think, of my entire national team career. And it doesn't make any sense. I was injured. I hadn't been playing for 2 weeks. It was crazy high pressure situation. And so this was just such an aha moment for me, and just really showed me the power that your mind and can have over your body. And so I ended up going down to the Olympic qualifier tournament, and I played, and unfortunately we didn't reach our goal. And so that was just heartbreaking for myself, for the entire team, and many people in the country, because we've been working so hard for 4 years. So it was a low point, but it was also crazy lessons learned, and also despite the result, just incredibly proud of the team and of myself. And so it was a very powerful experience, I guess, is a good way to sum it up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, when you get to this group of countries that are near the top of the world, probably somewhere in the kind of top 20, 25, somewhere in that area. When you get into this top category of countries in the world, everybody's so darn good. I mean, everybody's in it all in with this is what we do. This is what we live and breathe. And it feels really good to hear that you have that. Although it was a low, there was a personal kind of high moment there, and also positive thoughts and associations with the experience as well, because it's really, really, really hard. People work their entire lives to get to be in that category, and it's like that's the success. That really is a success, and there's so many aspects that go into having success on the international stage, and winning and losing some of these types of matches. And there's an aspect of luck. There's an aspect of all the stars aligning, the way they match up and the way you guys match up. There's so many other factors that are at play. And sometimes you have success and sometimes you don't. But it doesn't mean that you're not a success, right? Like, just, it's like your presence and your ability to be there and perform at that level is such an amazing honor. So, but no, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure there've been a couple of different kind of experiences through that, and a lot of mental work as well, right? A lot of mental fortitude that had you prepared for that. But let's look at where we are today, where athletes are today. So if I were an athlete, if I were a youth athlete that was on this call, and I decided, you know what, starting today, I want to do what Jessie did. I want to get from where I am here to be there for our senior women's national team, be one of the best players in the country in my position, and I want to start right now. Where would you recommend I start?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'll say is that there's not necessarily a magic formula, but it is a series of consistent habits. So it's putting the work in, the hard work in consistently over a long period of time. And that's one thing that, I'm not physically, I don't jump the highest, I'm not the strongest, but that's one thing that I had complete control over, was the effort that I put in. So that's one thing I would recommend, is to put the work in each and every day. And when I say work, that can look like many different things. That can be on the court, that can be, studying the game, that can be, mental preparation, that can be taking care of your nutrition. And you don't have to do it all at once, but it's consistently working on your entire game. And so that's one thing I would say, be consistent. And then, I would really recommend approaching it with a growth mindset. And I know that's maybe a bit of a catch-all term, but really becoming a student of the game, and also getting to know what really makes you succeed as a player. So what makes one of your teammates play really well, it might not be the same for you. So really doing some self-reflection and understanding what you need to do to perform is going to accelerate your growth and development. So that can be really tapping into the resources that you have around you. So, hey coach, like, what can I do here? And really asking for that, those areas, or, asking from your teammates, and just really reaching out and just gleaning as much information and as much support as you can from the people around you. And I think a way to summarize that is to own your development. So really set your goal, and then if you don't know how to get there, like, ask, create a plan, and so really put yourself in the driver's seat, and not necessarily wait around for somebody to tell you, oh, I think you have the potential. If you think you have the potential, hey, let's go get it, and we'll make it happen. So put yourself in the driver's seat. So those are two things I would say: put in the consistent effort and really own your development.
I love those. I think both, or kind of all of that is really, these are athlete driven. I think this is a really important thing for all athletes to kind of acknowledge and take accountability of, is like, if I want to achieve this, it's not on somebody else for me to achieve that. So if I don't reach a goal, and my first response is to turn around and point to a coach or point to a parent or point to a friend and say, you kept me from that, then you should probably have a look in the mirror and see, well, where did I miss first? And it's, so important to just take full ownership of your sporting life, whether it's as a club athlete or transitioning to further levels beyond that. It's your path. And if there's something you want to work towards, there's no coach that can make you jump higher, hit harder, pass better, move more efficiently on the court without you doing the work. These are all support pieces, but ultimately it's you. You're the one who's got to drive it. I really appreciate that. I think that actually segues really well in terms of your comments about putting in the work both on court and off court, the different ways it can look like. You've taken on some really interesting business ventures since your decision to retire from the national team. I'd love to dig in on a couple of those. Now, and before we jump right into those, you're currently in business school as well, correct?
Yes, yeah, I'm actually attending the Smith School of Business at Queen's University, and just earlier in February started my Master of Management Analytics degree. So I'm a big data gal. I love diving into the details, so it's right up my alley.
That's incredible. Was that something that, when did you decide you wanted to pursue that after your volleyball career, or what sparked that?
I was in my undergrad, I did a science degree, a Bachelor of Science in Biology, and with a business minor. And I really love the business side of things, but I was looking for a hard skill or some additional, I guess, technical training to bring into my post-sports career. And I'm not quite sure if having an analytical mind may be a good athlete, or being an athlete kind of taught me to be an analyst. But it was when this degree opportunity popped up, I jumped right on it because it was a really great fit. It brought kind of my science world and the business world together in a really tangible way. And it's offered online. So right now I'm in Michalovce in Slovakia, small town. So it's great. I can be studying and working from anywhere in the world. So I've enjoyed that.
And you know what, I'm sure, to your point, I'm sure they fed each other. I'm sure you're the analytical mind that helped you improve as a player through your career. Probably was fed from this this knowledge and aptitude for it, and now you're getting the other side, which is really cool. I'd love to talk about Volley IQ, which is one of the businesses that you've started or co-founded. Can you walk me through what that looks like and what the role is for that, especially with club volleyball and youth athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. So this past summer, with my former teammate Mariah Walsh and I, we, just like everybody else's, all of our training was canceled, and we were searching for ways to still keep our training top notch and be ready to go. And that experience that I had shared with you earlier about watching practice in preparation for that Olympic tournament, that was a real turning point for me. And so when Mariah and I put our heads together, we created Volley IQ, and it's an online training resource for aspiring elite level athletes that we've created a program that really focuses on using video analysis to support your training goals. And we've created a program called the Varsity Prep Program, because we identified in our own experience, there was a big jump when we went from club volleyball to varsity level, so college or university, in how video is used. So to give you an idea, when at university, if you don't already know, we used video for self-review to kind of improve technically, but also we'd be reviewing matches so we could improve as a team. The key role. And of course, hindsight is 2020. So if there's one thing I would change when I went from club to university, it would be to be better prepared for the video analysis portion of training. So our varsity prep program, we teach those 4 areas that I kind of touched on: intro to video analysis, learning the system, intro to match analysis, and intro to scouting, and really introduces how video is used at the varsity level, and prepares you to really hit the ground running once you reach that level. So I can also maybe just elaborate a little bit on how the program actually works for those that are interested. Please. We've got an 8-week program. So we've got 4 live sessions with a Volley IQ coach. And then in between the live programs, we're really excited. We have an app that hosts a ton of content and opportunities for athletes to practice the concepts that we introduce, and gives athletes an opportunity to actually submit videos to our team, and we can provide really personalized feedback and guidance to athletes. And yeah, our next program starts we do both men's and women's programs. It starts on March 21st, coming up in a couple weekends here.
Awesome. Yeah, right on time for a lot of athletes that are nearing the end of their club years and looking ahead. If as an athlete, should I be watching more video of myself playing to see what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong, or other players that play my position that I think look really good? Like if I play one position and I want to get better at that position, where should I look to? Where should I start? Is it myself or looking at other players?
I think there's benefits to both. So of course, video never lies. So watching video of yourself can be a really good way to kind of remove the emotion from the game or from practice and really take a look, okay, what are some areas that I'm doing well, and see areas that you could be improving on. So I love watching video with coaches and getting feedback, some really personalized, okay, not only seeing what you're doing, but analyzing it and then preparing a plan to perform and improve whatever that is better. And that's what we do in the Volley IQ program. We track everything, analyze it, and then create a plan to perform. But you also brought another really important piece about watching and learning from others. And that's something that I did not do enough of until later on in my career. So watching somebody who's a little bit better than you or a lot better than you perform a skill or be in a match, it's crazy how much you can learn just from watching and observing and trying to maybe emulate them or using certain parts of what you're seeing in your own game. Just like when I was in the gym at the junior national team, watching the senior girls in the other gym, it gives you a really concrete visual for what you can be working towards. So I would definitely recommend both. And if you have one or the other, just get your hands on whatever you've got and just get as much info as you can from that video.
Yeah, I mean, your program and the model is incredible. I find that at times, especially when we're looking from our own perspective as athletes, or also for coaches as well, we get really narrow vision on starting to see either what we want to see or what we're used to looking for, as opposed to looking at the whole picture. Just because that especially if we have watched some video, I'll use highlight videos that come up on social media as a great example. It's so easy to just watch the ball, and ball watching is how in a lot of sports, we're conditioned to watch sports by following the ball, and because that's usually where the points come from. So if you watch basketball, football, soccer, any of those, ball goes there, ball goes there, ball goes there. When there's so much growth to be had if you take your eyes off the ball and watch the players, especially if you want to play like the players do. They do so much more with all of their movements while the ball's going different places, and that's where so much of the growth is. One of the and this ties to a question just popped up in the chat here. When you're preparing to play a team as a libero, what are things that you're looking for from the opposition so that you're prepared to face them? So kind of dialing back to your playing path. You're watching video. You want to do the best you can and prepare the best you can as a libero. What are things that are popping up that you say, that's all right, well, that I'm going to remember, that's going into my little book, I'm going to have this, I'm going to be ready for this one?
Yeah, so as a libero, there was a couple of things that I would do. So first, I would get a good idea of the other team's kind of general tendencies. So specific to my position, I'd want to know, okay, who are the top hitters and where are they attacking to most with what kind of shots? So I would take a look into the stats. Okay, who's getting set the most, who's got the best efficiency, and then what I'm seeing on the stats is going to drive what I'm watching in video. So I get a good idea of their offense. Same thing, serving as a libero. Passing is so important to your game. So I would watch each server and track, okay, on a serving chart, I would just create a little box in my notebook and track, okay, for each server, drawing lines where they're serving to. And that gave me a kind of a really good overall picture, okay, you know, where each server is serving. So those are two examples, taking a look at their offense, taking a look at their serving, understanding their strategy. So I've got that in my mind. And then I would watch the video again and use it to prepare my head for the game. So I would watch and visualize how I'm responding to everything I'm seeing on video. So it was a good way to mentally really prepare myself to respond to likely scenarios that would be coming up. So good preparation strategically and good preparation kind of mentally for my own game. And so those are the things that we incorporate into the program and teach athletes, because you made a good point. Watching video is such a skill. Like, so often you get caught watching the ball or watching what your hair looks like or whatever, but just like it's, you know, you practice a technical skill serving, practicing to watch video, it's no different. It takes reps, it takes, you know, guidance and something that you can do on your own time as well. So
I want to actually come all the way back to something you mentioned earlier about a libero really having the opportunity to kind of take control over that reception and defensive side. So I'm going to poke on that for a second. Do you feel like the best liberos watch more video of reception, so passing and defense, than other positions? And do you feel like that then sets them up really well to take control over that? It's kind of like you're the smartest person in that back row room, so you can kind of point everybody else where they should be going to.
Yeah, you know, I think you could categorize it by position, because definitely it is the libero's responsibility to be kind of coordinating the defense and the receive. But I think there's the opportunity for any player, no matter what the position is, once you feel like you're taking care of your own game, the opportunity to really support your teammates and your coach even is, if you really understand the game plan or the system, you can help in those maybe high pressure moments to calm your teammates down and say, hey, remember in this situation, this player might do this, and just having that broad understanding of the game, which you can learn on video, not only helps your own game, but can really be an opportunity to lead on your team. That's completely separate from your skill, like it's a leadership quality that you can develop that helps you technically, but that will really help your team kind of aside from your stats, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And the last question I wanted to add in here for the volley IQ side, Does your team work with entire club teams as well, or is it all based on the individual?
Yeah, we actually do work with entire club teams as well. And so we work individual athletes, but entire club teams, and we can organize those for a time that works for each team, which is great. So yeah, I'd love, if anybody is interested, my door is always open to chat about volley IQ or just volleyball in general. I could talk for hours about volleyball. So yeah, individual athletes and teams.
Awesome. I think that makes two of us could talk about volleyball for a long time. The last quick question I had was you've actually started two businesses over this period. Can you briefly give anybody on the call or that watches this recording a quick rundown of what Ready in 5 looks like and what that initiative looks like for maybe our coaches, parents, or those that are into the working world, how that might be a benefit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm definitely crazy enough to start two companies in 1 year, but I was super lucky to be accepted into, it's called the International Olympic Committee Young Leaders Program. And so that program supports sport businesses to actually create a sports-oriented social enterprise. So it's a business that is built in sport that makes a social impact for social good. So that's what Ready in 5 is, a social enterprise. And what we do, we bring high performance athletes into online meetings. So in the corporate world, to lead 5 minutes of movement at the front end, to really get everybody energized, shake those afternoon sleepies off and really perform at their best, just like a high performance athlete would. So that's what we do. And we also, for every session sold, we donate one to students and schools learning online. So it's been a lot of fun to work with a lot of corporate teams and young students as well.
Yeah, get people moving, get the people
going. Yeah, exactly.
Jessie, thank you so much for making the time. We're between those on the call and those that are going to watch the recording. Your story and path, I think it provides a lot of hope and motivation for athletes that are on that want to follow a similar path. I think also really illuminates for coaches or parents that are on the path as to that. One thing you mentioned is that there's no one template, there's no one way you get from where you start to where you finish. There are a lot of routes to get there. I love your points about athlete accountability. I think is so important. Athletes kind of control their career, and it's been a pleasure to know you as a person, but also to see your growth and development through your playing career and now into starting some really exciting businesses that are going to help people. But I have more of an affinity to the volleyball one that's helping athletes in the sport too. So awesome to see. Jessie, thank you so much for making the time kind of on behalf of the Titans as well. And we're excited to keep following all the things that you get into.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun to chat with you, and thanks for having me, to the whole Titans family. So yeah, I hope everyone has a great rest of their Sunday.
So too. All right. Take care, everybody. Take care, Jessie. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye.